In the quiet suburbs of Jacksonville, Florida, my dog, Cisco, a boisterous 4-year-old golden retriever, was the one who showed me the cracks in my perfect life. Who knew boxer shorts could unravel a marriage? It all started on a quiet Tuesday evening. The kids were asleep, the house was calm, and I was relaxing on the couch with a cold beer in one hand and Cisco, my 4-year-old golden retriever, lying at my feet. Out of nowhere, Cisco trotted into the living room, proudly carrying what looked like a piece of clothing in his mouth. He had a habit of picking up random things: socks, slippers, you name it, but this time, what he dropped in front of me wasn't mine. It was a pair of boxer shorts. Not just any pair, but a bold blue and orange pair emblazoned with the University of Florida logo. I stared at them, confusion swirling in my head. I had no connection to the university, and neither did Susie, as far as I knew. A strange feeling crept over me, one I couldn't shake. When Susie walked into the room and saw the shorts, her reaction was immediate and telling. Her eyes widened, and her face turned pale before she quickly snatched them up. "Oh, these must have gotten mixed up in the laundry somehow," she stammered, forcing a smile. But her explanation didn't sit right with me. Cisco stood there, wagging his tail, oblivious to the storm he'd just unleashed. That moment planted the first seed of doubt in my mind. Something wasn't adding up, and my gut told me this wasn't just an innocent mistake. Little did I know, Cisco's innocent find was about to unravel everything I thought I knew about my life. On the surface, my life with Susie was perfect. We'd been married for 10 years, built a beautiful home in Jacksonville, and were raising 2 incredible kids, Emily, 8, and Ryan, 6. Susie was everything I thought I wanted in a partner: intelligent, caring, and hardworking. She balanced her career as an accountant with running our household effortlessly. I, too, had a stable career as a regional manager for a logistics firm. Our friends envied our life, and I thought we were the picture of a happy family. Susie and I rarely argued, and our days were filled with soccer games, school events, and weekend barbecues. It was the kind of life you'd see on a greeting card. But as I sat there that night, replaying Susie's reaction to the boxer shorts in my mind, I couldn't shake the sense that something was wrong. Over the past few months, I'd noticed small changes, subtle, almost imperceptible shifts. Susie was working late more often, her phone was glued to her side, and she seemed distant. I'd chalked it up to stress or the demands of her job. But now I wasn't so sure. The image of those boxer shorts lingered in my mind like a splinter I couldn't remove. They didn't belong in my house, and Susie's quick excuse didn't hold water. For the first time in our decade-long marriage, I began to question whether I truly knew the woman I'd shared my life with. Cisco's strange discovery refused to leave my mind. Every time I saw Susie after that night, I couldn't help but analyze her behavior. Was she being overly sweet, or had she always been this affectionate? Was she really staying late at work, or was there something or someone keeping her away? The first crack in her story came a few days later when I noticed her phone habits. She used to leave it lying around, but now it was always with her either clutched tightly in her hand or flipped face down on the table. Once, when she stepped into the shower, I reached for it, thinking maybe I could find something that would put my mind at ease. But it was locked with a passcode I didn't know. As I grew more observant, Cisco became my unlikely partner in suspicion. He seemed to have an unusual interest in Susie's things. One day, I caught him sniffing around her purse, dragging out a handkerchief that smelled strongly of cologne, a scent that wasn't mine. Another time, he pulled a shirt from the laundry basket with the same unfamiliar fragrance. Each small clue piled onto the growing weight in my chest. My gut told me that something was wrong, but I knew I couldn't confront Susie without proof. If I was wrong, I risked damaging our marriage over nothing. But if I was right, the thought of betrayal made my blood boil. That night, as Susie slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling, replaying every odd detail in my head. I had to find the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. My suspicions had grown too loud to ignore. I needed answers, but I also needed evidence, something irrefutable. Confronting Susie without proof would only lead to denials or excuses. So I made a choice I never thought I'd have to make. I decided to spy on my own wife. The plan came together slowly. While Susie was away on a weekend work trip, I ordered a set of hidden cameras online. They were small, discreet, and easy to set up. I installed them in key areas of the house: the living room, the garage, and reluctantly, our bedroom. It felt wrong to invade our privacy like this, but the alternative, living with the gnawing doubt, was unbearable. At first, reviewing the footage was a painful exercise in futility. For days, I watched hours of mundane recordings: Susie cooking dinner, helping Emily with her homework, or folding laundry. There was nothing unusual, and for a brief moment, I wondered if I was the one overreacting. But then, a week into my surveillance, I found it. The footage started innocently enough: Susie in the kitchen, pouring 2 glasses of wine. Then Paul Jenkins, her boss, walked into the frame. They stood close, too close. Paul leaned in, brushing her hand with his, and Susie didn't pull away. Instead, she smiled a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. I paused the video, my heart pounding in my chest. This wasn't concrete proof, but it was enough to confirm that I wasn't imagining things. I clenched my fists, knowing I needed more. I had to dig deeper, even if it meant uncovering something that would break me. The breakthrough came 2 days later, late at night, as I sat in my office reviewing footage. My hands were shaky, my breath uneven. I wasn't sure if I was prepared for what I might find. Most nights, Susie's actions seemed innocent enough, but this time, as I clicked through the files, a particular video stopped me in my tracks. It began with Susie entering our bedroom, but she wasn't alone. Paul Jenkins followed her inside, his jacket slung casually over his shoulder. I watched in stunned silence as they laughed together, their voices muffled by the camera's distance. Then Paul reached out, brushing a strand of hair from Susie's face, and she leaned into his touch. My stomach churned as the scene unfolded. The two of them kissed, passionately and without hesitation, as though they were the only 2 people in the world. They moved to the bed we shared, and I couldn't bear to watch anymore. I slammed my laptop shut, the sound echoing in the silent room. I sat there in the dark, my mind racing. This wasn't just suspicion anymore, it was undeniable proof. Every late-night excuse, every distant smile, every guarded phone call, it all made sense now. I felt a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. The woman I'd shared a decade of my life with had betrayed me, not just emotionally, but in the sanctity of our home. But I couldn't let my emotions control me. I needed a plan. This wasn't just about confronting Susie, it was about confronting both of them, and I would make sure they paid for what they'd done. I spent the next few days editing the footage. It was painful, but I needed a clear, concise video that left no room for denial. 3 minutes of damning evidence, snippets of their laughter, their kisses, their betrayal. When I was done, I saved the video to a flash drive and waited for the right moment to strike. That moment came the following Friday evening. I invited Paul over, telling him I wanted to discuss a business opportunity. Susie was home, of course, and I made sure she stayed in the room when Paul arrived. The tension in the air was thick, but neither of them suspected what was coming. Once we were seated, I pulled out my laptop. "There's something I think you both need to see," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. I clicked play. The room was silent, except for the sound of their voices and the damning visuals on the screen. Susie gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, while Paul sat frozen, his face draining of color. When the video ended, I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair, letting the silence linger. "I know everything," I said, my gaze fixed on them. "And now we're going to talk." Susie tried to speak, her voice trembling. "Jack, Save it," I snapped, cutting her off. "This isn't a discussion. This is a negotiation." I turned to Paul, my tone cold and measured. $500,000. That's the price of my silence. Pay up, or this video goes to your wife, your colleagues, and your board of directors. Paul stammered, his usual confidence shattered. He tried to argue, to bargain, but I didn't flinch. After what felt like an eternity, he nodded. "Fine," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'll pay." I watched as he pulled out his phone and initiated the transfer. The moment the confirmation pinged, I stood up. "We're done here," I said. "Get out of my house." Susie tried to plead with me, but her words fell on deaf ears. As I watched them leave, I felt a strange sense of relief. The hardest part was over, but the next chapter of my life was just beginning. After Paul made the payment, I wasted no time putting my plan into action. My relationship with Susie was irreparably broken, and staying in the same house, let alone the same city, was out of the question. I handed her divorce papers the very next day. She cried, begged, and tried to explain, but her words meant nothing to me now. Betrayal had a way of silencing every apology, every excuse. I used part of Paul's payment to settle the divorce quickly and quietly. The rest went into a private offshore account, my safety net for what came next. I'd always dreamed of leaving behind the hustle of corporate life and starting fresh somewhere far away. This betrayal, though devastating, gave me the push I needed to finally make it happen. Within weeks, I sold the house, resigned from my job, and packed my belongings. My destination, South America. A small coastal town in Ecuador caught my eye, a place where no one knew my name, my past, or my pain. It was perfect. Mom. When I arrived, the warm ocean breeze and the tranquil pace of life felt like a balm for my shattered soul. I invested in a charming, run-down hotel overlooking the beach. Renovating it became my new purpose, a project that kept my mind occupied and my heart from dwelling too long on the past. Slowly, I began to heal. The days turned into months, and then years. Life in South America was peaceful, almost idyllic. I learned to appreciate the simplicity of my new surroundings, made friends with the locals, and even found joy in running my hotel. It wasn't the life I'd imagined for myself, but it was mine, free from lies and betrayal. Just when I thought I had left my old life behind, a familiar face appeared at my door. It was a sunny afternoon, and I was tending to the garden outside the hotel when I saw her, Susie. She looked different, older, tired, and burdened by something I couldn't quite place. My heart skipped a beat, not out of longing but out of shock. What was she doing here? "Jack," she said softly, her voice carrying a hint of vulnerability I hadn't heard in years. "I need to talk to you." I crossed my arms, keeping my tone neutral. "You've come a long way for a conversation, Susie. What do you want?" She hesitated, her eyes welling up with tears. "Paul's dead. He had a heart attack 6 months ago. After everything that happened, I realized I made a terrible mistake. I don't expect forgiveness, but I prayed you might give me another chance." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut, not because I wanted her back, but because of the audacity. The audacity to show up after all these years and ask for my forgiveness. "I've built a new life here, Susie," I said, my voice firm, "and you're not a part of it." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand. I just needed to say I'm sorry." I watched as she turned and walked away, her figure growing smaller as she disappeared down the path. A strange mix of emotions swirled within me: relief, closure, and a deep sense of gratitude that I had chosen to leave that chapter of my life behind. Watching Susie leave that day was the final nail in the coffin of my old life. I stood at the edge of the garden, staring at the horizon, feeling an overwhelming sense of liberation. Her visit, though unexpected, was a gift in its own way. It reminded me of how far I had come and how much I had gained by walking away from the lies and betrayal. In the years since moving to South America, I had learned to find joy in the little things. The laughter of travelers who stayed at my hotel, the vibrant sunsets that painted the ocean gold, and the simple pleasure of waking up without the weight of doubt or heartbreak pressing on my chest. My hotel had become more than just a business, it was my sanctuary. The locals often joked that I was one of them now, and in many ways they were right. I had traded the chaos of my former life for a slower, more meaningful existence. My days were filled with the sounds of waves crashing against the shore, the aroma of fresh seafood being prepared in the hotel kitchen, and the laughter of guests sharing stories over drinks. I even began to write, pouring my experiences into journals that I kept tucked away in my office. Writing became a cathartic outlet, helping me process the pain and lessons of my past while celebrating the peace of my present. Susie's apology didn't change what had happened, but it allowed me to close the door on that part of my life for good. It was a bittersweet reminder that sometimes the best way to heal is to leave the broken pieces behind and build something entirely new. As the years rolled on, my life became a testament to resilience and reinvention. I had been betrayed in the worst way, but I had also discovered strength I didn't know I possessed. The betrayal didn't define me, how I chose to respond to it did. Running the hotel brought a steady flow of fascinating people into my life, each with their own stories of heartbreak, adventure, and hope. I found myself connecting with them, not as a broken man, but as someone who had rebuilt himself from the ground up. My past no longer felt like a burden, it was a badge of survival, a reminder of what I had overcome. Every now and then I would reflect on Susie and Paul, not with anger or bitterness, but with acceptance. Their choices had shattered my world, but they had also set me free. Without their betrayal, I might have never left, never rediscovered myself, never built the life I had now. To anyone out there grappling with heartbreak or betrayal, my story is proof that life goes on. The pain doesn't last forever, and sometimes the worst moments can lead to the most beautiful transformations. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story of resilience, forgiveness, and starting over, please hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire and resonate. See you in the next video.